Hey guys, Grant with Gamertainment here, and today I'm going to be looking at the second episode of Better Call Saul. What day is it? It's Tuesday, so it aired last night, Monday night. I watched it early this morning, and I was kind of blown away by it. It really exceeded all expectations. In my opinion, it was a lot better than the first episode was, which it's to be expected, because the first episode is really just introducing the characters, introducing the story. But it really found its own place in episode 2, and it reminded me so much of some of the things that would happen in Breaking Bad. And I'm just gonna share some thoughts on some scenes, and I'll talk a bit about it. So this episode starts off showing us what happened before Saul was greeted at gunpoint at the door of who we now know is Tuco's house. Which, it was great to see him back, and if we can expect this kind of performance from his character in every episode, then I would be open to having him in every episode, because it was just great. And I think some of the funnest moments of this episode were when he was on the screen. But all in all, the opening sequence of this episode was probably one of my favorites of the whole thing. It was just hilarious how Tuco kept shoving his grandmother to go upstairs and telling her to watch her show while he would deal with the situation. And, you know, the little bits where like he beats the crap out of the two skateboarding guys, and I still don't know their names. I refuse to learn their names until I know they're going to be part of the show in the long run. But he beats the crap out of them, and even when she comes out and he says he spilled salsa on the rug and is trying to clean it up, that was just great. And it only got better when Saul showed up. The back and forth between Tuco and Saul was just some of the funniest dialogue I've heard in a while. And I'm not just talking about when they're in the living room, when they go out to the garage, it continues a bit. But then when Tuco brings all three of them out to the middle of the desert is when it gets really good. Skipping over when they're trying to find out who the real identity of Saul is, which, you know, was okay in my books. It was fine. It might have dragged on a bit long. You didn't really know what was going to happen, if they were going to believe Saul, like, that he was actually just a lawyer, or if they were going to think that he was working undercover against them. But that was all right. But when it really got good and made the episode what it was Saul's bargaining to bring down the injuries of what Tuco was going to do to the skateboarding guys. I mean, he started that with death, and he actually let Saul go, which I don't know. When that happened, I kind of took a step back, and I mean, Tuco was aware that it was Saul's idea to do all this, but he gets to leave unharmed. They did answer it. They said he was being respectful, but is that enough? I mean, I had a hard time believing that Tuco only wanted to hurt the skateboarding guys because they swore at his or insulted his grandmother, or called her a name. Isn't it worse that Saul wanted to pull the whole scam on the grandmother in the first place? Anyway, putting that aside, that is one little thing I'll criticize, but putting it aside, it was great when they let him go and Saul turns around and comes back to try to talk down their sentence, if you'll call it that. Because it started off with deaths, getting them alive, slicing their throats, pulling their tongues out through. Oh, it was lots of stuff that was just great. But Saul goes all lawyer on Tuco and goes, no, punishment that is just, you know, break their legs. And it was great, because it went from 2 legs each down to 1 leg each, which equals 2 legs. And, you know, Tuco agreed. He agreed 1 leg each. And it was kind of brutal, even though it didn't show the leg snapping, which you wouldn't think it would, or they would be able to show that. But the noises were, they were pretty gruesome, and just the whole way the scene was done. Tuco is a pretty crazy guy. I mean, they haven't changed the character too much from him. I guess he's always just been kind of crazy and wanted to be the top guy around. Kind of thrives off power, having power over people. Something I will bring up is, seeing as this is a prequel to Breaking Bad, and you know that Saul is going to obviously live through the entire show, does it take away any of the unpredictability of what could happen to him? And, you know, I've had a couple people tell me it does, and at first I kind of thought it might. But I don't know. The chances of the main character dying in any show or having deathly injuries are pretty low anyway. I mean, they're the main character. They're most likely going to live through most situations. And I think the fun part about this is just seeing Saul get in these situations, but finding ways to get out of them, talking his way out of them, most likely. So even though that he's not going to die, I mean, other things could happen. He could get injured. Bad things could still happen to his life. That make the show really just interesting and worth watching. Like, he still has things to lose. The last thing I'll say about the desert scene, and this is more of a personal preference for me, if those two skateboarding guys aren't going to be in the show very much or even anymore, maybe that was the end of their story. Maybe I doubt it. I'm sure they're going to be in it more, because they've been in the first 2 episodes so much and focused on and gotten enough screen time that I'm sure they're going to be part of it. But I would have liked, I don't know, it could have gone to that darker level. Tuco could have been a bit more evil and said, Saul, you live if you kill them. And in the garage, when he gave him that knife, I didn't know if he was going to say cut them loose or if he was going to say kill them. And even back in the desert, I don't know. Would that have escalated the show to just an entire other, like a different level completely? If they had Saul right away kill 2 people. But in the meantime, would he have even done it? Because Saul is still pretty innocent when it comes to these type of things. I mean, following the desert scene, he's in this restaurant having dinner with a woman, and there's a guy at the table next to them who keeps cracking these breadsticks and snapping the breadsticks in half, and it's making a sound similar to the sound of the guy's legs being broken from the desert. And Saul is really starting to lose it, and he can't handle it. So you can tell right away that he's not used to this kind of violence, and it's really affecting him on a couple different levels there, mentally, emotionally, and I don't know, it's really taken a toll on him so far. So Saul ends up at Chuck's. I'm a little bit unclear at whether Saul lives there or if he doesn't live there, but anyway, he's drunk. That's where he ends up. And we get this really weird scene where Chuck kind of helps him a bit, puts a blanket over him, but finds his cell phone and just freaks the hell out that Saul's got this cell phone inside. And it kind of opens up another layer in the character of Chuck. I mean, this guy is kind of borderline crazy. I don't know what his illness is, but he thinks that cell phones, I guess any electrical devices like cell phones, are causing him harm, are making it worse. And I mean, Saul wakes up and finds Chuck huddled up in this space blanket, they called it, and he refused to take it off. But it was just a really interesting scene with Chuck, and I'm still very unsure about where this whole thing is going. I'm guessing Chuck is not going to be around in the long run. But maybe, I don't know, Chuck is kind of not even on Saul's side in the big picture when you watch it and when you think about it. So the scene with Chuck follows with Saul going back to the public courts, and I guess he's ready to work. After everything he's gone through, he's just ready to do some cases and to do as many as he can, because we get this awesome kind of montage of him doing all these court cases. And, it shows the same thing every time. It shows him getting his coffee from the machine, which I don't know why, but I love the sound of that cup falling out of the machine and filling up with coffee. It's awesome. You show him in the bathroom saying it's showtime, which is also just great. And it shows him leaving every time in his car and having to go past Mike, which is, I guess Mike is still going to be the meter person, or the parking lot manager, or whatever you would call that job for the time being. And I'm kind of enjoying it, as much as a lot of people probably don't like that this is the role Mike is reduced to for now. I get some enjoyment every time Saul goes through and Mike says, go get some more stickers, you don't have enough stickers. I'm really liking that so far. I wouldn't mind even keeping him there for an extended period of time. Maybe not the whole season, but if you want to go halfway through the season to the mid-season finale or something and have Mike still doing that, then I'm fine with that. I'm just finding entertainment in his current role in the show. Something else I found a little interesting about Saul in the court scenes as a whole is that he's really fighting for his clients, the clients that are assigned to him. He's trying to get them off, trying to get them as little time as possible. But in the first episode, we learned that win or lose, he still gets paid the same amount of money. So Saul seems really interested in making a name for himself, trying to win as many cases as he can, so that he gets more clients outside of the public service for the court, which is great. He's really not a shady lawyer at this point. He's just trying to make a name for himself. Like I said, trying to become just a big time lawyer. So the episode ends with Saul returning to his little office, if you can call it an office, that little room in the back of the beauty parlor. And he checks his messages as usual to find out that he has none, which is, that's not great for him. Either way, he is alerted by one of the salon workers that he has a client or a customer waiting outside. And I kind of suspected at this point that it's not just going to be any random customer, but it is one of Tuco's guys from earlier in the desert who shows up to talk to Saul. And he basically says to Saul, I heard you talking about this rich couple who stole like $1.5 million earlier in the episode. These were also the clients that Saul tried to sign on with in the first episode of Better Call Saul, and he failed at doing so. And the guy is basically trying to make a deal with Saul where he finds the money. This guy goes and robs the people of the money and then gives Saul 10%, so 150,000 or 100,000 or whatever it was that they agreed on. And Saul is really opposed to the idea, which is, that's the way his character is right now. He's not a criminal, and he says he's not a criminal. But the guy writes down his number, gives it to Saul, and basically says, call me when you figure it out finally that you are. He didn't use those exact words, but that's the way I took it, as him telling Saul, when you find out that you are a criminal, that you want to be, or that you want money, or something along those lines, or that this is the only way to really get this big amount of money, then you call me when you're ready to do it. So that's where this episode ended. One thing I'm noting that wasn't played up a lot this episode was Saul's rivalry with the other law firm, the Hamlin McGill law firm. Which is interesting, because in the first episode, that was really a big storyline, and you almost thought that was going to be the storyline for the show going forward, like the big underlying issue, the big rivalry between Saul and his other law firm. And I still do think that Saul is going to get back at them and screw them over big time. But obviously, we're going to have to wait and see that happen. And I don't know if Tuco's going to be involved in that, but he might. So right now we have some small development from Mike. We have Tuco introduced as just an amazing character, and I think it's going to be great moving forward if he's still involved. We have the twin skateboarder guys who we left off with them in the hospital with the broken legs. Don't know if they're going to be involved. I mean, maybe they could work for Saul still eventually. Maybe they want to. I don't see why they would want to keep on the road with Saul after the situation that he put them in, but you never know. And we have this weird kind of character building with Chuck going on, which I got to admit, that is my least favorite part of these episodes right now, is the stupid Chuck storyline. I mean, I love all the other stuff, but whenever Chuck comes in with his illness and the law firm stuff, I really couldn't care less right now. Maybe it'll grow on me. Maybe it'll flourish into like this big storyline that's great and entertaining and suspenseful. But right now, it's just too much of a weird mystery that I don't care about. Show me the other stuff. Show me Saul trying to make it. Show me Saul in court, even getting ready for anything. Everything he does is entertaining except for his stuff with Chuck. But it's the more emotional stuff that they save for Saul and Chuck. Obviously, they're pretty close. They have a tight bond, so I don't know. I think Chuck will end up being the big loss this season for Saul. They're going to continue to grow the relationship between them, and one way or the other, either Chuck is going to completely turn on Saul and side with the law firm, or Chuck is going to die, or both. So either way, Chuck is going to be. Well, my prediction, Chuck is going to be the big loss for Saul. Maybe ending the season, maybe the mid-season finale, but at some point. Anyway, guys, that has been my mini review / discussion about Better Call Saul, Episode 2. I hope you guys enjoy it, and I hope someone watches this and it makes them think a little bit. Anyway, I'll try to do this at least for every episode of Better Call Saul. I've been thinking about doing it for a couple other series I watch, like Arrow or The Flash. Those are shows that I think discussions could just go on and on and on about for a long time. I could talk about those for a while. But anyway, this is Gamertainment. Thank you for watching, and I'm just going to throw this message out one more time for you guys. If anyone wants to join me in a discussion about any topic, any show, any movie, an event, a game, a video game trailer, an analysis, anything, message me, comment, subscribe, do whatever to get in contact with me, and we can maybe work something out. I think it's great to have these discussions with one or two other people besides me. Just everyone has their own opinions. You bounce ideas back and forth. It creates more of a discussion. You can sometimes think of things that you wouldn't think of by yourself, obviously. So yeah, if anyone is interested in doing that, let me know. Other than that, if you ever have any suggestions for playthroughs of any games you want me to play, throw them out there. I'll do my best to play them. And the same goes with these mini reviews and discussions. Just throw it out there. Gamertainment is for the viewers, by the viewers. So let's try to make that happen. Thank you for watching.